Howdy Reaper 1 tricks, Reaper mains, and anyone who's new to the Reapmeister. This is a blind noob, and in this video, I'm going to be going into detail on perhaps the best perk in Season 15 of Overwatch 2. And that perk is Dire Triggers. Dire Triggers is one of Reaper's two major perks, and to be honest with you, both perks have their uses, and it's actually a tough call on which one to take, but in my opinion, while it may not be the best perk in the game right now, Dire Triggers certainly has potential to become number one. So what does Dire Triggers do for Reaper? It allows him to shoot both shotguns at the same time, dealing extra damage with significantly less pellet spread and increased range on a 4-second cooldown. It deals up to 130 damage without critical hits or headshots, and up to 260 damage crits. The optimal range is about 20 meters, but the damage falloff is not as significant as someone like Cassidy, so an enemy who is 30 meters away is still gonna feel it. While this perk on pretty much any other hero in Overwatch 2 would be absolute doo-doo, on Reaper it is quite literally a game changer. With so many heroes having some sort of CC or ability to create distance between them and the enemy, flanking can be frustrating with Reaper. But having a high damage dealing ranged attack allows him to finish a fleeing target much more effectively than his base kit. It also allows Reaper to actually do something when teams are poking before a fight, when TP flanking isn't an option. Also, a well-timed shot can take an enemy DPS or support to critical health, making them a one-shot kill for an Ashe, Torb, Mei, etc., basically forcing them out of the fight until they get healing. So this perk does a lot more for Reaper and his team than just the obvious finishing targets off at range. The value you can get from it is pretty insane, and it's not as situational as most other perks introduced in Season 15. All that being said, while I think this perk is already very strong, if they iron out a few flaws with it, it could end up being one of the best perks in the game. Now first off, all of these features of Dire Triggers could very well be intentional with the purpose of making the perk not overpowered, but they could also be, and I think this is more likely, oversights by the devs and may be fixed or changed in future updates. So first off, and I think this is the biggest gripe of most players and why they choose the lifesteal perk, is how long it takes to do literally anything after firing Dire Triggers. You can't shoot your primary fire, reload, or melee until after a lengthy delay following your double shot. I mean, in all fairness, this is right in line with Reaper's basic abilities, as both Wraith and Shadow Step make Reaper vulnerable for a split second after using the abilities. So if we're going for consistency, it would make sense for Reaper to be completely useless for a second after firing Dire Triggers. It just makes the perk feel clunky and severely limits the times where you can use it. While using his basic auto attack, Reaper can melee immediately after firing, and you can press the reload button before he even completes his auto attack and he'll start reloading right after firing. But with Dire Triggers, you have to wait until the animation of him putting both weapons down completes before you can do either. And pressing the buttons proactively will not register, so it can mess up your usual habits. So many times I've pressed reload while actively firing Dire Triggers, expecting my shotguns to reload afterwards. Of course, they don't, and I'm left with only 1 or 2 rounds in my guns for the start of the next fight. This one is obviously an oversight by the devs, as perks were not created to make heroes feel clunky or mess up players' habits. This will definitely be fixed, hopefully sooner than later. Another one is the actual timing of his guns firing. You'd probably expect his shotguns to fire simultaneously for Dire Triggers. However, this is not the case. There's a slight delay between the two shots, which is probably a reason why a lot of people say the damage from this perk is inconsistent. If you tend to flick your shots, you're going to notice a lot of your pellets don't hit the target. However, it doesn't make any difference if you're just strafing back and forth. This is another obvious oversight, as there's no way the devs would expect you to suddenly stand still to fire off his double shot as if you're the second coming of Widowmaker. This too will likely be patched in the near future. Okay, so let's now go over the times or situations where you can get optimal value from Dire Triggers and times when you should avoid using it. The most obvious is finishing a target. If an enemy is less than 100 HP, but outside of your optimal range, so basically further than 5 meters away, Dire Triggers is going to confirm that kill for you. No flanking opportunities and teams are poking, peek from cover and give him the old 1-2. Reaper can't fire his auto attack right after using Dire Triggers, but he certainly can do it the other way around. So if you want to add a little more damage to your poke, auto attack into an immediate double shotty for maximum value. Tracer dancing around you and she's still got a bunch of blinks available? Smack her with Dire Triggers next time she jumps into your crosshairs. If you're accurate, you can get some nice one-shots on that pesky little cockroach. For Raw being a bitch, smack her fat hitbox with both shotguns. 4 seconds later, do it again. Got one more round left in your shotties and your target is critical? Finish them off with Dire Triggers. It usually costs 2 rounds, but you can still use it with only 1 round left. That being said, if your target is not one shot, do not use that last round for Dire Triggers, unless you want to be reloading for the next 10 seconds. Reload times from Dire Triggers rivals that of Mauga and his double machine guns. Try to avoid it in an extended brawl where you'll be continuing to shoot immediately after. Also, this is not Baptiste's heals. Do not try to weave Dire Triggers into your regular auto attacks. The delay before firing your next shot will decrease your overall DPS. And finally, if you have a tendency to flick all your shots, particularly for some PC players, I would just straight up recommend choosing Reaper's other major perk, Ravenous Wraith. It's also reasonably good and you'll be losing so much damage and value from Dire Triggers if you try to flick it. And if you try to change your shooting technique to accommodate it, you'll potentially throw off your whole rhythm and it could be detrimental to you. So that's my take on Dire Triggers. I've been using it exclusively now for almost 100 matches and I've noticed myself getting more and more value from it the more I use it. It's already a very strong perk and I believe once the devs fix some of its clunkiness, it will become a must-have for all Reaper players and nightmare fuel for their enemies. That's all for this video, thanks for watching, and until my next one, may your Dire Triggers be bloody.